If you're looking for a place to connect with a community focused on your creativity and well being, you're in the right place. Welcome to A Concept You, the podcast, where we explore creativity, intentional living, and self expression. I'm your host, Makala Aayana. Welcome to the playground. Let's dive into today's episode. I have been struggling lately. A little moment of honesty here. I've been out of sync, out of touch. I've been traveling a lot and healing from the flu and very minimal sleep and not even feeling very connected to my creative pursuits and the things that I should be working on, but don't really have the energy nor the time for it. So I've been out of touch. And I feel like one word that has been really floating around my head in the spirit of transparency has been fraud. I feel like even as I was preparing for this episode, I have been feeling that way because I've found it very difficult lately to follow my own words, my own advice, the things that I talk about. The last couple of months, last couple of weeks have been the moments where I have been needing that advice the most. And so it's been very hard to channel that, to talk about it when I know I'm not doing the best to follow my own advice. So that's why it's been such a struggle to be in this place, be in this space with the concept you. And so I figure the best way to get through it is to talk about it with y'all. So we're here, and there have been a couple of things that I have been doing to help get me back to my routine. I do have a half marathon coming up in a couple of months, and I know I need to make sure I'm working on my endurance and can actually last the length of the race. And so, getting back into my health and focusing on moving my body and training and going on runs is something that has been really helping me to get out of my funk. I also think not letting other people down, even though that does add a little bit of pressure to me sometimes. I think that's something that has also been helpful because, for example, I have a group show that I'm curating in March, and this group show isn't just my art. Like, there are other people that I have reached out to, that I have gotten to come into this space and be a part of this process. And so, because of that, I know I have other people counting on me, and that's also something that's helping to just make sure I'm on it as much as I can, even if I can't give 100% right now. I'm showing up as I am, and where I'm at right now, that is enough. That's been helping me to kind of loosen up, to get back into sync, get back into what works well for me. And that recovery is something that's allowing me to find the small ways to reconnect and to get back on it. The flu the flu is a hoe, for lack of better words. The flu is a hoe. I of course, during this time, it forced me to slow down. It's slow down everything. Like, I had to stop and do nothing but rest. And the days, kind of sort of the weeks leading up to, I had been struggling to listen to my body because I had responsibilities and I wasn't listening as much as I should have been. But once I gave in and listened, I was able to give myself the much needed care and attention to recover and to heal. So I've been regaining my strength little by little over the last 2 weeks, and I am feeling much, much better. And during that time, I did a restorative yoga practice with Yoga with Adriene on YouTube, one of my favorite online yogis. And as we were wrapping up the session, towards the end, it was very relaxed, a floor stretch exercise. And she mentioned three words: recalibrate, rejuvenate, and restore. And that stuck with me for a while. And that is why I knew I needed to speak around what those words mean for me and what it has been kind of walking through that as I am in a place of healing and coming out of a very just funky space, in hopes that the things that I have tried and tested can maybe work for you. Starting off with Recalibrate, this is really taking into account what it means to adjust and realign when life feels chaotic. How do you recognize when it's time to recalibrate? This is something that I think is marked by self-awareness. Listening to your body is one thing, but understanding what your body needs is a completely separate thing. You have to have a balance of both, especially when you are putting everyone else's needs above your own. These are the moments when you are recalibrating to getting back to yourself. And not necessarily is it going to be the same person that it was before, in the sense that every experience that you face, every trial, every tribulation is teaching you something about yourself that you did not know before. So by nature, you are constantly evolving, and the things that work to get you back to an equilibrium may not work the next time. But finding ways to meet yourself where you are in that present moment is the best way to consistently do that, because you're getting back to yourself and whoever you are right now. Not who you were 5 minutes ago, not who you were a month ago, but who you are now in this present moment. That role of self-awareness and making small adjustments to realign yourself with what feels good is the way that you recalibrate. The second word is rejuvenate. This is thinking about what does renewal look like in your practice. Sometimes you rejuvenate by resting. Sometimes it's movement. Sometimes it's simply giving yourself that permission to be where you are, even if it doesn't feel the best. I think what looks like renewal for me changes very easily on a day-to-day basis. Today, what it looked like was sleeping in. I did some grocery shopping. I freshened up my space. I am working on this podcast. I'm working on my to-do list on catching up with some of the things that align with me more on the creative side, because that helps me to rejuvenate my energy and to pour back into myself and the things that I care about. That is something, or that is kind of like a string of things that today has worked for me in the sense of rejuvenation. On a completely separate day, what that would look like is me spending time with my family, me spending time with my partner, or me just rotting and lying in bed for the entirety of the day just because I can. There are things that work to help you rejuvenate today that may not work tomorrow, and that's okay. Just listen to whatever your body needs in this present moment and honor that. That is the best way to go about it. The last word is restore. This is thinking about how do we come back to a place, to a sense of wholeness, of feeling competent in majority of the areas in your life. I'm not going to say all, because I feel like that is a false sense to believe in. You're never going to feel whole in every aspect of your life, and that is okay, because that is the nature of things. You're constantly working towards some goal, and when you reach that goal, there's always going to be something else that you want to work towards. So, thinking of restorative practices in the nature of little ticks, little increments of stillness, of practices that are going to help restore you to the best version of yourself in this very moment. One thing that I think about when I think about restorative practices is the role that community plays in that, the role that creativity plays in that, self-compassion, how you think about yourself. From a community aspect, my restorative time is when I am listening to my friends and the things that are going on in their life, or I am talking to them about some of the things that I'm struggling with and getting their outside perspective to kind of shift the way that I think about the things that I am going through. That is a way of leaning on your community to help you restore. In terms of your creativity, this space is an outlet for me. Coming here, talking to you guys, this podcast, it is an outlet for me. And sometimes when I don't feel like the best version of myself, it is hard to show up. But in this moment now, I feel connected. I feel like because I am opening up the door to a creative space, like that energy just flows more. It's easier for me to create when I am creating. I feel like that's so simple, so easy to say. That's the best way to describe it here. When you feel stuck, when you feel like you need a sense of renewal, of restoration, pour into create something creative. It does not have to be anything that you feel very comfortable doing. It can be something brand new. It can be something that you struggle with. You don't have to be the best painter to paint. You can create friendship bracelets. You can doodle on your iPad or on a piece of paper. The list is honestly endless. You can plant something. You can do a collage. There's just so much you can do, honestly. Find something creative to use that as an outlet and see where that takes you and how restorative you feel after that. And the last thing is around self-compassion. You have to be kind to yourself where you are at. I feel like this is probably the hardest thing for me to do, or the thing I have been struggling with the most lately, and that is because I get in my head. I get in my head very easily. My thoughts tend to spiral, anxiety, we've talked about this. It is something that I struggle with, and it's normal. It happens, but it can be very difficult for me to find the words, find the mantra, the affirmations, whatever it is that I'm telling myself to get myself out of that headspace, at least in the immediate term. So I have been working on figuring out the things that help me immediately snap myself out of those situations. And a lot of that actually has to do with moving my body. So if I'm feeling stuck, very anxious, very overwhelmed with wherever I'm at in the moment, I know that going outside, taking a 15, 20-minute walk is going to help me. I know that rolling out my yoga mat and turning on some Yoga with Adriene or some other talented yogi on YouTube is going to help me get out of that space. I know as I've been training for this half marathon, going on a run or doing an exercise to help me just, perfect my endurance or work on my endurance. That is something that is going to snap me out of the present moment and wherever my headspace is and get me more so into my body. That is something that's been really helpful for me as I am working on restoring myself and feeling more whole. Being a human means that we will not always have it together, and that is okay. That has been the largest lesson in all of the trials and tribulations that I've experienced over the last couple of months, over the last couple of years. We're not always going to have it together, and there is nothing wrong with that. When you are learning about or learning from situations that you're experiencing, that wisdom isn't about getting it right. It's about remembering to return to yourself over and over and over again when you are getting it wrong. I want to give y'all a journal prompt or just something to think about as you move from this episode and into your day is, what does it mean to you to recalibrate? What does it mean to you to rejuvenate? And what does it mean to you to restore? Think about that. Think about the things that have worked. Think about the things that have not worked and why, and how you can use those to try something else and to consistently try again until you figure out what works for you in this present moment. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of A Concept You, the podcast. If this episode has resonated with you, be sure to share it with your loved ones. For more, connect with us on Instagram at aconceptyou or visit makalacreates.com/ACY. Until next time, keep doing you and take care.